Next perspective is called biopsychosocial. From the word biopsychosocial, it compromises of the three perspectives: biology, psychology, and sociology. So we can say that this perspective is elective, meaning there's one or three perspective in one perspective. So if we're gonna determine the developmental of the self, it will fall under biology, which can be organismic perspective. Psychology could be pertaining to psychodynamic perspective. Sociology could also pertain to behavioral perspective. Okay, so three perspective in one perspective. So it responds to reductionism or reductionistic perspective. So it focuses on complex phenomena into their most basic parts. Like for example, in our organismic perspective, we have there the body and then down to the different organs. So we have biopsychosocial down to the different perspective, biology, psychology, sociology. For biology, we have the different parts of the body and actions towards the environment. Psychology with the different theories and proponents like Sigmund Freud and Erik Erikson. And for sociology, we have B.F. Skinner, Ivan Pavlov for reinforcements. So it's a field of study constitute of many studies, but in contrast with that, it focuses on the different parts rather than the whole perspective. So it reduces into one single cause. Okay, so we have here this Venn diagram. So we have biology, psychology, and sociology. So for biological influences, it includes basically our genes, our nurture environment rather than nature environment, which will fall on social cultural influences. Okay, so we have biology like sex, genes, hormones, and physiology, how our body and organs work. And we all know that as we grow older, our physiology gain more actions because it will adapt and it should adapt to the environmental changes that is now happening. Like for example, I have read a quote that we are not actually killing COVID or destroying COVID, but we are trying to live with COVID. So our biological influences there or our immune system then will adapt to the changing environment that we have today. So as a kid, so infancy, dapat yung immune system nila is mabuboost. So how can we boost the immune system of an infant? Through vaccine or by letting them play to the sandbox or sa garden. Because if they are exposed to the germs and the virus from the earthlings, may chance na tataas yung immune system nila because they will adapt to that environment. Next is we have psychological influences. So this one is from our early experiences like the psychodynamic perspectives of Freud and Erik Erikson. So those early experiences evoked our characteristics such as our gender, our feelings, our emotions, and our beliefs. And as our development process through our timeline, syempre itong influences natin ito is nagiging open siya to new perception about life. Our feelings began to mature, our beliefs try to waste more things, and our expectations sometimes lessen because we don't want to fail. So that's why our expectations are just little or our expectations are just those that we can meet. But in a video game that I recalled, sabi dun na expectations are best when it is not attained. Why? because if you cannot attain that expectation, you have to boost yourself to attain that expectation para bang breaking the barrier of your ceiling. And last, we have the social cultural influences. So it includes influences from our parents, from our friends, from our social groups, cultural traditions like norms, values, ethics, and the likes. So our social cultural influences also plays a major role in our development. So how? Like for example, your parents are from the Philippines, but you grew up in the States. So that will fall under what the confusion of which social cultural influences to follow. But as you matured more, you will realize what is the best culture that I can adopt to identify who I am in this world. So that is how they weigh things down in terms of social influences. So how does this tree affect one person? So an example of this one is a person who is diagnosed with eating disorder. So eating disorder as specifically pica disorder. So when we say pica disorder, this is a disorder where they can eat non-material things, specific non-material things. Like for example, they can eat nails. So yun lang yung kinakain nila. Or here, it's called trichotillomania. So let's try that, trichotillomania. So for biology, it can be inherited. Okay? Siguro nakuha mo siya from your grandmother. Psychological wise, it's a disorder. Social wise, you have it's under your cultural influences to grow so much hair. Because of so much hair, you can actually now eat it. So you fall under this disorder called trichotillomania. This is how this tree works under biopsychosocial perspective. So that's it for our biopsychosocial perspective.